Hey, babes. No, not you, babes. I mean the babes in the video, because this is one Wonderkid for every Premier League team. Stick with me. Now, there's a very clear reason why you need to watch this video and pay attention as well, if possible. More importantly, watch it. Because a year ago, we did this exact same video, and there were a couple of names in that list that went on to be pretty good players. Fabio Carvalho. Heard of him? Yeah, of course you have now. But we were talking about him a year ago. Anthony Gordon. Is he good enough? Is he good enough for Everton? We told you he was good enough for Everton. Did you listen? Not sure. The important thing to say here is that, or even Declan Rice. We said Declan Rice will go up a level. And specifically talking about his dribbling and ball carrying. Only on the James Lawrence Allcott channel. Subscribe. Point is, this is a great list. You can put in your back pocket and you look cool amongst your mates. All right, you go, what him? What? Omar Rekik? Yeah, cracky little player. Did you see him in AFCON for Tunisia? That's what I'm talking about, okay? Enjoy, watch it, take it in, and let's begin. So I've kind of given it away already, but that's one. I'm going to give you two for Arsenal. Omar Rekik, a Tunisian centre-back. He's been all over Europe, basically because he's been following his brother, but Arsenal purchased him. Excellent player on the ball, was in the Tunisia squad for AFCON as well, as an exciting player. But of course, I've got to talk about Charlie Patino, because Charlie Patino is super, super exciting. And I'm intrigued to see what comes of his path. You know, he's can qualify to play for England or for Spain. I really hope he chooses England. And he's a bit of a hybrid of Ramsey and Jack Wilshere. You know, Jack Wilshere when he was really, really good. Destined to play in probably a double pivot. He's been playing as a 6 or an 8. Of course, everyone was talking about him after his debut in the League Cup, I think it was. He wasn't actually at Arsenal at the start of it all. He went there as an 11-year-old. Apparently, Transfer Market says that he came from Luton for about 10 grand back then. But in terms of his awareness, obviously short in stature, but his awareness on the ball and his passing and his confidence in coming and getting the ball, it is really, really exciting. And it's something that I don't think we've seen when it comes to English players, and in particular English centre midfielders, for quite some time. Aston Villa, Jacob Ramsey, he's good, but he could be great. Now, there are some other names that you can mention for Aston Villa, likes of Cameron Archer, doing really well at Preston at the moment under Ryan Lowe, a fantastic manager in his own right, fantastic young manager, and Carney Chukwuemeka, who's started to get a couple of substitute appearances for Aston Villa as well, and at 18 looks like a real talent. But we've got to focus on Jacob Ramsey because he's just super exciting. The fact that he's 20 years old and he has that ability to dominate games. I also think he's under a bit of a shadow, which suits him, I think, with Coutinho as that superstar in the team there for them. Watkins maybe as well, Danny Ings, people that have come for big money. And then you've got Jacob Ramsey just nestling in there nicely. Really, really special player who can, as I say, take the game by the scruff of the neck and really make a difference through his ability off the ball, his movement, his dribbling with the ball as well. He's played 19 games this season. That's as many as pretty much anyone in the squad. There's only 3 players in the squad who've played more games than Jacob Ramsey, and the next year is just going to be huge for his development. Brentford, Halil Dervisoglu. Dervisoglu is a really interesting one here because he's actually struggling a little bit. For someone who's 22, He's not a wonder kid, really. I mean, but he has the potential to be a really, really strong player and is the rightful pick here. Now, he's at Galatasaray at the moment. He's only scored 3 goals in 21 appearances, 14 starts. But Galatasaray are struggling heavily at the moment. They're 13th in the league, 6 points off the relegation places as well. So it's one of those where actually, some of these loan moves, they don't work out, but you're a better player for it. I mean, look at someone like Harry Kane. Great example of that. So I wonder if Dervisoglu is someone who could go to another side, have a new loan, and actually catch fire and get the numbers that will, capture the attention of the football masses, and in particular the Brentford hierarchy, because they did sign him and he is exciting as a talent. He was involved in 15 goals when he was 18 for Sparta Rotterdam in the second division of Dutch football. That's pretty impressive, and that's largely why Brentford signed him. So there is potential there. It's not totally come out yet, but it could do after those life experiences at Galatasaray. Brighton, Evan Ferguson, believe the hype with this guy, 17 years old. Now, Brighton don't have that many strikers. You know, it's often the transfer that we talk about when we're talking about Brighton is that they need to go and get another striker, but they might have a real gem in their midst already. He's done really, really well in Premier League 2 this season, 8 goals in 14 appearances, scoring frequency of 117 minutes. And remember, that's a 17-year-old playing up against 20, 21, 22-year-olds, which I think, you know, is a really, really good indicator for the fact that he's a tidy finisher and a good player who's ready to play men's football. His appearance against Burnley recently was the second youngest player to play in the Premier League this season. So he's got all the sort of hallmarks for someone who could be quite special for Brighton. At 17, it might be one of those ones where he doesn't break through in the next 12 months, but I think over the next 18, 24 months, I think we're going to be hearing the name Evan Ferguson a hell of a lot, be it at Brighton or in a loan move in the Championship. Burnley, Nathan Collins, very solid defender who will come good and become a Premier League regular in my eyes. I think it's one of those ones where, a bit like Tarkowski himself, he had to kind of almost wait for Michael Keane to be moved on. And again, I think the same is going to happen with Nathan Collins. He's played right back at times. He's only played 5 appearances actually so far, and that's because Tarkowski and me are just so well established. But that doesn't mean that he's not a great player. I think Stoke City fans will attest to that. He's very, very comfortable and reliable with the ball, as shown by the fact that he's only been dispossessed once in those 5 appearances. Sooner or later, he will come good and he will be a regular in the Premier League. Chelsea, Trevor Chalobah. Tuchel loves him. I really, really love him as well. And in particular, I just think you can see that he has a really nice mentality to him. You know, it's not nice. It's that of a man. He's a 22-year-old man now, which I know again sounds obvious, but often you see these players, especially players that have been at Chelsea and had a couple of loan moves and then still don't seem like they're ready when they get that opportunity in the Chelsea first team. Year on year, he's got better and better. 2 years on loan in the Championship and a year in Ligue 1 for Lorient has, I think, done him brilliantly, both as a person probably and as a player. More importantly, getting those games is so important and has been to the detriment of a lot of these Chelsea players, and I think those players themselves are kind of understanding that these days. You got to remember, whilst on loan, he has played in that holding midfield role as well, and I think that's put him in really good stead for when he's come into this Chelsea side, especially in a back three where he's capable of having the ball all the time and being brave, and then, you know, making mistakes but being brave again. I think I remember the Liverpool game in particular where he made a mistake but then did well for the bulk of the rest of that game, and I like that about him a lot. I think he's taken his opportunity brilliantly. You know, scored a couple of goals as well for Chelsea as well. His pass accuracy has been really solid, 89.9% so far, and he's only miscontrolled the ball once this season. I don't know how that's even a stat, but somehow it is. They keep an eye on everything these days. Done brilliantly. If you want another name out of the Cobham Academy, Harvey Vale, attacking midfielder, just 18. There's a lot of hype around him, but I wanted to give it to Trevor Chalobah because I think he's really, really impressed me, and I'm excited what could happen with him over the coming years. Crystal Palace, Michael Olise. Anyone who saw him for Reading, shout out to Ding Pring. You know who you are. Has always said that this guy is something really, really special. And when you watch him, you see that. He's one of the most enjoyable youngsters to watch in the Premier League, in my opinion. And Palace have got a few of those kind of players. What's interesting is that he actually hasn't played that many games. At the time of recording, 5.5 90s in the league. And he's got 2 goals and 3 assists. So really lovely output from what he's doing so far in his first season in the Premier League. I mean, the fact that I haven't put Conor Gallagher forward, I think says a lot. I think I put Conor Gallagher forward last year. Great left foot. Has a bit of the Mahrez about him, a bit of the Ziyech is about him. I just really, really like him. He seems to make the game a little bit slower for him, and I think that's always a really, really good sign. He's got a huge future ahead of him. Everton, Nathan Patterson is going to surprise a lot of people. Now, there hasn't been much hype over Nathan Patterson coming into that Everton squad. Of course, Seamus Coleman is the current custodian of that right-back spot. But I think he's a really exciting player, forward-thinking, you know, similar to Seamus Coleman in that respect, but at 20 years, he's already featured 4 times in the World Cup qualifying campaign for Scotland, who, you know, are pretty solid in terms of their fullbacks over the last couple of years. And I know on the left side a little bit more so, but on the right-hand side in Nathan Patterson, they got someone who, as I say, is always wanting to go forward. He's going to be really exciting with that. And with Lampard in particular, I think he wants that kind of player. And he also wants to mould those younger players as well. So expect a really exciting, young, dynamic right-hand side next season with Anthony Gordon and Nathan Patterson being the mainstays of that side. Leeds United, Joe Gelhardt, he has it all. Pound for pound, Joe Gelhardt is probably the most talented player on this list. I know Leeds United fans absolutely adore him. And when I watch him, I get these little Robbie Fowler vibes from him. You know, young Robbie Fowler when he was super, super exciting. In terms of his goal involvements in Premier League 2, it's been pretty strong. He's played 25 times in Premier League 2 and accumulated 22 goal involvements. That's 18 goals, 3 assists. We've kind of seen glimpses of what he can do in the Premier League. I think the problem is slightly the system that's in place at the moment for Leeds United. You're not really sure where to play him. Tyler Roberts is getting a lot more minutes than Gelhardt at the moment, but he's got some of the best long distance shooting that you'll see, but you haven't really seen it in the Premier League. You've only seen it in Premier League 2. He's had some effective cameos, but I just think at 19, he's just got something about him. And as a Scouser as well, and maybe that's where he's getting those Robbie Fowler vibes. The biggest compliment I can give is he's got that kind of attitude and style of play that you just often see with Scousers, which is like, I just don't give a fuck. And I really, really like it. Leicester City, I'm going to go with Tawanda Maswanise. Now, there are a lot of young players at Leicester City. I mean, there's kind of a mix of both, isn't there, with those experienced dudes as well. But if you think of the likes of Harvey Barnes, we know about him. James Justin, we know about him. Luke Thomas, Patson Daka. We know about all those guys. So I wanted to go for Maswanise because he's done really, really well in Premier League 2. Plays on that left wing and could be a name that could really excite. Again, if he gets that loan move. And this is one of those videos where if you're a championship club, these are the players that people will be looking at to try and bring into their club for the start of next season in League One and specifically the Championship. And Maswanise playing on that left-hand side, he's done really well. In terms of the 18 games that he's played, he scored 8 goals, a couple of screamers in there as well, with Blackburn and Everton both bearing the brunt of those screamers. Starts on that left-hand side and then loves to cut inside. Another quick name, Chris Popov, came from Man United, from their youth team into Leicester City's and could be tearing it up soon as an attacking midfielder. But Maswanise is the name to remember for the next 12 months. Liverpool. Now, it's very obvious for me to say Harvey Elliott, but I think that'd be a little bit boring. You guys know how much I like him. I've spoken about him so many times on the channel. So I'm going to put forward a different name, a newer name, but also a name that's affiliated with a name that you might know very, very well. Owen Beck. Now, Owen Beck is the nephew of Ian Rush. Now, that obviously adds a bit of pressure to him, but fortunately for him, he's not a striker. He's a left back, and he's done really, really well in terms of the UEFA Youth League so far this season. He's a sort of marauding left wing, left back. His runs forward, I think you would describe them as pretty electric. And he's offered up some good output as well. 3 assists in the Premier League 2 this season so far as well. He does lack some physicality. Needs to fill out a little bit. But at 19, that's probably pretty natural. And also, you know, Robertson, he was stick thin as well. So time is on his side. But Owen Beck, the nephew of Ian Rush, is one to watch. Man City. James McAtee. He will be the next to break through into the first team. What a player this guy is. He's a winger, also an attacking midfielder, which would surprise you when you look at his numbers in Premier League 2 so far this season. He is the top scorer in Premier League 2 with 17 goals and 4 assists so far this season. He's arguably the most important player for the Man City under-23s, who are miles ahead in the league, in the Premier League 2 league so far. They play a very, very similar style, as you would imagine, to the first team. So I think that just, with the goals, the output, but also the fact that he's ingrained in that kind of system, it all bears very, very well for his rise into that first team. The only problem he's got is that it's pretty loaded in the areas of which he wants to play. Manchester United, Alejandro Garnacho, a future star, is emerging. Now, this is one of the few players, I think it's the only player on our list actually, who's coming from an under-18 squad. But Garnacho, who is a really exciting left winger, and when you finish this video, go search his name, Garnacho, Garnacho, and watch his highlight reel, because he's taking the mickey a little bit in that UEFA Youth League and also just in the under-18s generally for them. They signed him from Atletico Madrid in 2020, and again, when you see some of the footage of this guy, you can understand why they were so desperate to sign him. Another name to chuck in there, Charlie Wellens, really exciting right back with good end product for Manchester United as well. But Garnacho, just to get on it early, he is a name that you will know very, very soon. Newcastle United, this is a sad indictment, I think, of Newcastle United that I've got to go with Joe Willock, who obviously cost a lot of money and isn't going under the radar when you're thinking of young players for Newcastle United. I have been really impressed with him in the last few weeks. I think he's really finding his feet, and it's interesting that he's done that last season and this season. It shows that when it kind of gets to the business end of the season, he is up for it, which is good. It shows an element of leadership. He's just about under 23s, but there are no prime candidates really from the under 23s, and I think that says a lot about what Newcastle United are going to want to invest in. They need to invest in their youth system because there aren't any decent players coming through at the moment. Norwich City, Bally Mumba. Now, it's a player who can play in defensive midfield, also right back or right wing back. He's currently out on loan at Peterborough, and I think he's got all the tools that you would need to be a really, really strong player. It might be, in terms of becoming world class, but I'm not sure about that. And time will only tell, of course. But I think going to Peterborough would be very good for his development, and we could play a player that could come into that first team squad, depending on where Norwich City are next season. But if they were to go down, it's a player that will have had then Championship experience and could be a bigger part of the Norwich City first team squad. Another player to keep an eye out, Thomas Dixon Peters, who's a complete forward and has scored a lot of goals, been very prolific for Norwich at youth level. Southampton, Tino Livramento. What a signing he has been for Southampton. I think it's an obvious choice, but I think we just got to give him that moment. The guy came at 18, is now only 19, is a wonder kid. He really, really is. And what I love about him so much is that normally with young fullbacks, there's a gap there. There's something that's kind of missing. But he's really, really got it all. And he's been such a great signing for Southampton. That sort of link between Southampton and Chelsea has been very, very fruitful for them. Tino Livramento, unbelievable stuff. 57% dribble success rate so far this season. He's played so many games, become so influential. One of the best right backs in the league at this point. And in terms of tackles and interceptions per 90, it's only Salisu and Jack Stevens who've got more than him. He's currently putting forward 5.26 tackles and interceptions per 90. So what that says to me, again, is that both sides of it for an exciting attacking fullback who's also got the physicality despite being so young. Huge future for him. Tottenham Hotspur, Harvey White looks to be a very complete midfielder, is a stacked area, and sadly Antonio Conte at this moment in time, and generally with those big sides, they'll often go out and get someone from Juventus on loan instead of giving a youngster a chance. But Tottenham are currently 4th in Premier League 2, and although he's played as a number 6, he's got 6 assists from playing in that position. I think he's got pretty much everything as a central midfielder and, is a really exciting player, but needs the opportunity. Is he ever really going to get it at Spurs? I'm not sure, but sooner or later he will be a really exciting Premier League player in the same kind of vein of like Gay or Conor Gallagher, one of those players that might have to leave that big club to go and get that football. Watford, João Pedro, he's the Richarlison of Watford, but he's not really getting the opportunity to do what he can do. He's a really, really exciting player, and I think he's been hurt by the multiple managers that Watford have had so far this season. He's also hurting from the fact that there are other players, the likes of Josh King, that have a similar profile to him. So when you have these new managers and every game matters so much, players that are in that developmental stage are probably going to struggle, but there is no doubt he has huge talent. We saw that in the Championship, and of course, he's only 20 years old, so he's got a huge future ahead of him. West Ham United, Armstrong Oko Flex. What a name, first and foremost. Secondly, a massive prospect. Signed from Celtic in 2021 after making 2 appearances for Celtic. The Irish winger is something really, really special. 11 goals in 16 matches. He's been taking the mick as well in Premier League 2. And it feels like it's only a matter of time before he gets that start for West Ham United. Yes, it'd be really brave, but I don't think it'd be stupid if he got a few minutes between now and the end of the season, especially with West Ham playing so many games, possibly in the Europa League, FA Cup and the Premier League as well. Keep an eye out on this guy. He has got it all. And Wolves, it's got to be Morgan Gibbs-White. He's going to be a key player next season. He has to be, in my opinion. Anyone who's kept an eye on the Championship this year, you will have seen that he's been so prominent for a Sheffield United squad that is littered with players with Premier League experience. And he just has so much, from an attacking point of view, as a box-to-box midfielder as well. He offers so much creativity for Sheffield United, and he's really, really thriving in Sheffield this season. And with Traore leaving on a permanent basis, it does open up an opportunity for maybe someone like Morgan Gibbs-White to finally put down a marker and be a regular starter for a very good Premier League club in Wolves. He is that good. So there you have it, guys. Hopefully you've jotted all these names down, and whenever you need it, you can pluck it out of the air and go, yeah, bloody good player. Got 8 goals in 20, whatever it was, Premier League 2 matches. That is my gift to you. Take it and go forth. Before you do go, please subscribe to the channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, that is payment for said list. Also hit the like button as well, also payment for said list. I'll see you in the next one.